Now imagine you're Jimi Hendrix in 1967. Your debut album is about to change the world. Are You Experience is electric, cosmic, and dangerous. But hidden within this track list is a song that doesn't try to impress anybody, it just tells you your truth. It's called Red House. It's simple, it's slow, and it's the blues. Up until now, you were someone that was basically bumping your head on the Chitlin circuit in the United States as you were trying to make a name for yourself. You ended up in Harlem and you basically went through trials and tribulations until you ended up at the Cafe Wah where you were finally discovered. But throughout that whole time, the blues was the foundation of who you were, and it was the music you were always trying to do. Now, your idols basically didn't understand what you were trying to do. However, you always looked to the blues as a standard that you wanted to achieve. So that's what Red House is. And today we're going to be reacting to Jimi Hendrix's performance. This is here at Randall's Island in New York. And I think it's an amazing performance of Red House. And this became one of Jimmy's standards. Buddy Guy, B.B. King, even after the fact and up until B.B. King's passing, he would always say, if Jimi Hendrix chose to exclusively play the blues, everybody would be out of work. And I think Jimmy, amongst everything that he ever did, especially in that short span of 4 years when he created his entire life's work, Red House is probably one of the most proudest moments of his life when he knew he had a blues standard that even the legends that he looked up to would actually find value in and continue. Now, what I'm doing here with these videos that I've been doing so far is creating an archive of legendary performances and figures, whether it's in art, history, business, and basically trying to capture what they have done and leave you with a takeaway as you stay for the end of the video, that you can use that perspective to sharpen your own ideas and something that you're pursuing for yourself. So if you find value in that, please like and subscribe so you can see more of these videos. But let's get into Red House.
If you didn't bring any blues with you, we'll make sure it makes some for you to take home with.
Whew. Right off the bat, that tone, I almost feel like the original recording on Are You Experienced. Obviously, it has its own character and it has its own soul. It actually reminds me, I live here in Nashville. When I drive on Jefferson Street, this is actually the street that Jimi Hendrix learned how to play the blues on. So he was stationed here in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And he came to Nashville and he wanted to cut his teeth and learn how to do this. And he learned from a guitarist named Johnny Jones. And you're going to hear me say this story a few times throughout my videos, but it's because it's a really important fact. And Jimmy was 100% immersed in becoming a student. Before we see this final form of Jimi Hendrix at the end of his life, and even when he was the rock star that we know, keep in mind that he enabled himself to be in the environments that he was in, and he would soak up everything he could. He just wanted to be a really, really great guitar player, and more specifically, a great blues guitar player. And that just expanded his horizons, having that foundation. But my point to this is, when I hear the original Red House from Are You Experienced, and I drive through Nashville, sometimes it's the way the sun hits. It takes me to a very nostalgic place. Jimmy and his music kind of tie back in my own life, my own journey to many moons ago. And it kind of brings this familiar way that the day, that time of day feels. And I can sense just that presence that he probably had and just what his music brings and the energy that it brings to a particular day. So, there's Are You Experienced that does that. But this, whenever you hear his live versions, you can tell that he's just bringing more and more experience that he's had. All the the trials and tribulations of fame, all the hang-ups, and maybe even the isolation of knowing like how far away he is from what he ever thought a stable life might have been, if there was ever hope for that. Meaning, think about it. He left Seattle, went into the army, went into the Chitlin circuit, then New York, and then London. You're having so many different layers of being removed from your family, even outside of all the difficulties you dealt with as a child. So I can only imagine like how deep down, like how many layers he was building upon for all the pain that he went through, but also the lightness. I mean, there's a lot of resilience in a man like this to be able to translate this for us all to feel this even many years later. There's a very, very deep and refined soul there. So the live versions always do something for me because you can just hear the moment there's that, little 3-note arpeggio that he does in the beginning as the intro. You feel what type of mood he's in almost. You can kind of capture where he's at. So let's continue here.
There's a red house over yonder, baby. Lord, that's where my baby stays. Yes, there's a red house over yonder, baby. Anyway, that's where my baby stays.
I should know this. It's funny that this is one piece of information I haven't retained after all these years of being such a fan of Jimmy. But if someone can comment below and let me know again, what was the backstory of those lyrics? The red house on the yonder, that's where my baby lives. Not the actual phrasing of it, but I know there's got to be a real life experience there. I'm trying to figure out which relationship it was or which woman it was in his past that he kind of wrote this for. If somebody remembers, please drop it in the comments so I can refresh my own memory rather than looking it up afterwards.
Lord, I ain't been on to see my pretty baby in about 99 and one half days. Yeah, it's about time to see the baby. Wait a minute, something's wrong. Lord, I'm missing the key, wanna lock this door. Wait a minute, something's wrong. Lord, I'm missing the key, wanna lock this door.
Right off the bat there, I mean, those are some very, very, the blues is all about how you deliver it, right? I mean, those lyrics sound like they could be for anybody, but how many of us have been in that situation where you know for sure that it's finally over with the person that you're with or you're dating, and, Lord, this key won't unlock the door. It's a metaphor for like, hey, this is done. There's no going back. That door won't open again. Especially in this day of social media, you got blocked or you got, for some of those folks out there, you got kicked out, you just know there's a point of no return in a relationship or in a dynamic with the person that you're into. And what a way to capture that. Once again, in my last video I was talking about in 1983, A Merman As Should Be. He's talking about yellow lipstick and tube shaped things and using like this visual imagery that's more poetic for an apocalyptic scenario, which is missiles. For him to say, he was very good about just having these different meanings for things, but using very poetic words. So I just think I just thought that was very clever. And when he sings it, you can tell that that's where the emotion comes from. It's like they always say, right? The blues is easy to play, but hard to feel.
Ain't said a damn thing about coming either. That's right.
My goodness. Once again, I mean, for those of you that are Jimi Hendrix fans, you've had this experience of getting lost in his solos. But for those of you that are either stumbling upon his stuff or getting into his stuff, this is the phenomenon here. This is going on a journey with this man and being able to take something as, earthy and human as the blues and take it into the stratosphere. And I know I kind of understand both perspectives now after like kind of listening into not just Jimmy's music, but also like having an affinity for blues music from back in the 30s and whatnot too. The Robert Johnsons, the Muddy Waters, the roots of all of it. And understanding those guys' perspective as well. Whoever heard Jimmy at first and was like, this isn't blues. It's because this thing is so out there. But the guy, if you hear Jimmy stripped down, just him on not just an acoustic, but an electric guitar without being plugged into a Marshall amp. There's some, bootleg recordings out there. Everything was in his fingers. This guy had massive hands. he had this very expressive tone. He was able to bend the strings in such a way that he had that tone, which is why I said there was that B.B. King comment. But one thing I want to talk about is Hendrix. When you strip down what he's done, like a song of Red House, it's very much just a blues.
There's a red house on the yonder, baby. It's where my baby stays. Hey, Lord, there's a red house on the yonder, baby. And that's where my baby stays.
So you kind of get the idea here. Is like you can translate that over. Like, he was a bluesman. He was a bluesman first. I'm going to get into this in future videos, but there are many artists that I think that's the core foundation of them, and they're just able to transcend and use the blues as a language to elevate what their messaging is and what they're trying to actually do. But Jimmy, chef's kiss, one of those guys, just can take it and take you to a place that you don't expect that you're going to go. That solo was incredible. So let's continue with the performance. But I mean, he's almost wrapped up. But I want to just hear how he's tying this particular version off.
Something I'll go back over yonder, thing goes.
Woo.
Way beyond the hill. Yes, I think I'll go back over yonder, baby. Way on the hill. If my baby don't love me no more, Lord, I know good will that her sister will.
Wow. As always, I know my page has just started out and probably seems like I'm going to be a Jimi Hendrix page at this point. But no, my main goal here is to tap into the roots and the foundation of what makes these brilliant figures throughout history who they are. And primarily music being my first true love when it comes to skill sets that I've had as an adult. I think that's something that I've been fascinated about. How did people like Jimi Hendrix get to where they are? I always talk about wanting to be a fly on the wall when he's composing or figuring out what his sound is, or someone like Ray Charles sitting at the piano and like, what did this guy sound like when he was just getting started? But it fascinates me just when humans progress and when humans are in that process of refining what their craft is or what their journey is. That always gives me hope for humanity and where we're going. Now, I promised you that what I'm doing with these videos is trying to give you a takeaway and a perspective that you can use to sharpen whatever's happening on your journey. In this particular case, with Jimi Hendrix and Red House and his affinity for the blues, it's basically taking the foundation that you have. A lot of us, sometimes we forget about the natural skill sets we have or the main thing that we serve and solve for in this world. And being able to sometimes set up the infrastructure that doesn't exist currently. Meaning, the easiest way to put it is create your own table if people aren't inviting you to theirs, but taking it a step further and really almost still figuring out a way to serve those people, even if you've been rejected. What is it that you can do that others can't? And in the case of Jimmy, he loved the blues, but look what he created from this. Number one, he did all this monumental work, this psychedelic rock and all this, but he created his own standard. He completed and he fulfilled the main thing that he wanted to do. And we all have that. And if you find out what that why is and why you're doing what you do and you fulfill that, that is going to make you more fulfilled than just trying to always fit in exactly how you're supposed to. And Jimmy was at odds so many times in his career and in his life, up until the point that he was successful and maybe even a little bit afterwards. It took him going to London and being loved by those in the UK, and then getting poured back into the US for him to even have a name in the United States. And the ironic thing is that he played blues really well, and he played American music really well. He just wasn't accepted. The packaging, who he was a very shy guy. He didn't kind of have that bravado unless he was on stage in day-to-day life. He couldn't schmooze or deal with, I guess, the characters that were around that were decision makers. But whatever you're into, whether it's business, if you're a baker, if you're a cook, if you're a fighter, just remember, you're able to carve out an infrastructure, especially in this world, for yourself, and be able to leave something behind that is going to serve other people, but also is fulfilling to what your time on this earth meant to you. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you again for taking the time to go on this journey with me with these reaction videos. This is going to be a continued archive, and my next video is actually going to tie into another group of figures from the era. It's going to be Led Zeppelin. But if you found value in this video, please do like, subscribe, and I will definitely see you in the next video. Appreciate you all.